So good morning, everyone. I'm Cameron Kennemer. I was invited here today by Rhett, the owner of BeaconPath, to put together this webinar. I am a business development executive and a cybersecurity solutions advocate from ITQue. We're a managed IT services and security provider based out of the Bay Area. We also have offices in Southern California as well, and Texas. And I have some experience in IT myself, but today I am joined by some literal IT wizards. Today we have Ahmed Ragab, professor of cybersecurity at San Diego State University. And although he is very humble, he's kind of a big deal. We also have DJ Foreman. DJ is ITQue's chief technology officer. He's also one of the founders of the company. DJ's been helping business owners for over 30 years in the IT industry. He's also really established himself as a really reputable authority in the field, especially in the field of cybersecurity. He's got a lot of experience in that. And then we've also got, this guy, Rhett Bray. He's the founder and owner of BeaconPath. And among other things, he provides businesses with cybersecurity insurance, cyber liability insurance. Each of our speakers is working on the same thing, very much in their own way, in protecting businesses. You've got Ahmed doing it from an educational perspective. DJ's doing it from a preventative measures perspective. And then you've got Rhett providing a safety net for businesses, all working on the same thing, all on the same team, working on their own little areas. And I'm super excited to have everybody together today. Today, what we're going to be doing is covering some of the threats that are out there for businesses that are unfortunately causing a lot of trouble. And you're going to learn how you can protect yourself. You're going to get some key takeaways today that you can use right away to help. And we're also offering at the end a free web scan / vulnerability analysis. And we're offering that to everyone at no cost. That can cost thousands of dollars, but thanks to Uncle Rhett here today, we will be providing that to you for free. And now I'm going to turn it over to Professor Ragab. Ahmed, talk to these folks about what's going on out there these days.
Thank you, Cameron. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Can I just get a thumbs up if you received an email for a free trip to Mumbai, or if you were asked to, put in your email address or phone number to receive a verification to make sure you are who you are, or you're being asked for 13-character passwords, uppercase, lowercase. At the end of the day, your employees, your clients are clicking on malware and emails from strangers that encrypt your data. Then they ask you for ransomware, or they can compromise and brute force your email username and password, and then that would pose a tremendous risk on your organization. Imagine somebody being able to access all your clients and all your sensitive data and your credit card numbers and so forth. So at the end of the day, because of the cyber attack that you're seeing today, it poses a big risk on the organization. And the risk is you being asked to pay a ransomware, they're stealing your company sensitive information, and that's like not good for businesses. So what are you going to do about this risk to your business? Well, you can call Rhett for insurance. You can call DJ to put in antivirus, anti-malware, or some kind of email security, or put in a firewall, right? And those will help you reduce the risk, minimize the risk to your organization. And so again, the options is do nothing, accept the risk, mitigate the risk, or transfer that risk to Rhett and have insurance to cover you with that. And that's really at the end of the day. And then what's really important also, because of the regulatory compliances It's not the wild, wild west. The government is saying, hey, if you're taking people's credit cards, you need to adhere to PCI compliance, payment card industry security standards. Or if you're in healthcare or construction, there's different laws and there's heavy fines. So how do you reduce this risk? How do you mitigate this risk? Again, that's what we're here to tell you about. And DJ will tell you a lot more about reducing the risk and having good, effective security measures. You need antivirus, anti-malware. You need email security. You need multi-factor authentication. We need to make sure it's DJ that's logging in. It's not Cameron, and he has access to that sensitive information. We need to make sure Rhett doesn't click on that free trip to Mumbai that will download malware, malicious software that will encrypt your data and ask for ransomware. And we need somebody to verify it is Cameron to send an email verification or a text message to verify who you are. But that's not secure because I can spoof Cameron's phone number and email. There's other effective methods. There's a lot of things that you can do to protect your business, to reduce the risk, minimize the risk, reduce the blast radius, and protect your PII, personal identification information, your client's credit cards numbers. It's the crown jewel of the organization. With that, I'd like to turn it over to DJ to tell you more about that.
Hello, everybody. So what you're looking at, this nightmare, is what people in cybersecurity have to deal with. What this is a mapping of all the different security frameworks, compliance standards, all the different types of tools that can be applied. And the interesting part about this, it's one of my favorites, but the interesting part about this little diagram here, this little brain thought cloud, is that it is an illustration as to how no one person can do this by themselves. I'm not going to try to get you to understand all of this stuff. This is this is a shock and awe kind of picture to make you really realize that even amongst the experts, this is confusing. This is one of dozens of very well-known documents and attempts in the industry of cybersecurity to codify and to manage this. Now, how is the regular business owner supposed to be able to consume all of this? It's an alphabet soup of compliance standards. There's PCI DSS for credit cards. We all know HIPAA, right? That one's for healthcare. SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, NIST. NIST is the new gold standard for all companies, enterprises that don't have a specific compliance. So if you don't take credit cards or you don't deal with healthcare, and so you don't have to worry about those two compliances, NIST is the compliance that everyone is now using as the standard. When private equity companies buy up assets, what they apply is NIST compliance, the National Institute for Standards and Technology. Now, it's the federal baseline for all compliances. Obviously, the scary three-letter acronyms, the IRS, the CIA, the NSA, they use much stronger technology, but the baseline is the same. And so that's why everybody's using that. Now, how do we get there, right? As a business owner, what's realistic? You used to be able to say back in the day that it was just antivirus, right? People would say, oh, well, I've got my antivirus installed, kind of a set it and forget it, not a real thing in security. Set it and forget it is not how you do it. There's constant care and feeding. Now, again, it used to be just antivirus. Now, we don't actually call it antivirus anymore. It's a term that a lot of people still use. They'll say antivirus or they'll say malware protection, but really what you're looking at is endpoint protection. Now, there's several parts to this. We're going to focus on three different things. We're going to focus on multi-factor authentication. We're going to focus on advanced email security, and then the endpoint protection. Again, remember, endpoint protection, think of that as antivirus. It's much more robust than that. But what that means is that if you don't have these three minimum things, you're absolutely doing it wrong. You can go to any professional organization. If you're in construction, there's UConn in California. There's several others. If you were to go to any of those little trainings that they do and offsite, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the small conferences, the regional conferences. And if you were to tell anybody in the room that you're not doing these three things, people are going to kind of snicker a little bit, right? That's how important this is, that if you're not doing these things, then that's wrong. Now, it gets more complicated than that. So multi-factor authentication, people are pretty aware of what that is, right? The concept is it's MFA, or sometimes called 2FA, two-factor authentication. The reason that we've switched to multi-factor authentication, because it can be several different layers, biometrics, thumbprints, iris prints, right? If we're like in the movies, that stuff actually does exist. But most of the time it's something you have, right? Your cell phone, and you scroll through it and you go to your MFA app and it's got all the rolling 6-digit codes that change every 30 seconds, right? That's something you have and something you know. That's what multi-factor authentication means. The something you know part is, of course, their login and passwords. Pretty straightforward. The something you have part, that's where things get interesting. You can either send an SMS text message to your phone, you can run an application on your phone, you could use one of those little dongles, those little RSA tokens that have them. There's many different ways to accomplish the something that you have part. Advanced email security is the other piece. A lot of people talk about that like it's spam protection. Yes, but just like antivirus, that has evolved drastically. And so now what you want to look for in an email protection is not just spam protection. That's the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy mode. What you want it to also to have is some level of intelligence that will tell you about doppelganger domains. So if somebody sends you an email and they've replaced the letter O with zeros, it's going to know that, and it's going to warn you ahead of time. Things like that, those visual cues that we've all been getting trained for, but this brings it to the next level to protect us against ourselves, but also against the unknown. It's kind of protecting ourselves from ourselves. So ITQue's approach to cybersecurity, and this is one of the biggest reasons that I really enjoy speaking or working with Rhett and his team in BeaconPath, is that, look, I'm going to be a little tongue-in-cheek here, but SH happens in IT. And when that happens, you need somebody there who gives an SH in IT, somebody who actually cares. And that's why we like working with Rhett and his team, is because they actually care about their clients. They're concerned about checkbox compliance. They don't want you to just check all those boxes and then have something bad happen down the road, and then you're not protected because the boxes you checked, you weren't really doing the things that you checked. And insurance brokers, they're not going to be cybersecurity experts. That's not possible. Just like I don't know very much about cyber insurance and all that stuff. And that's why we work together, because we see the need. We both care about our clients, and we want to make everyone's game elevated a little bit. I think I'd like to hand it over to you, Red.
Well, thanks, DJ, on that. And we're going to dovetail off of what DJ talked about. And in our deal, we're going to talk about this new mindset that you need to have. And this new mindset is, it's not if it's going to happen, but the reality is when it's going to happen. In some statistics I checked out, so there's one attack every 39 seconds, almost 2,400 attacks daily on small to medium-sized companies coming from enemies outside. And when I was kind of getting ready for this, and as we work with our underwriters for the cyber insurance, is that the basic fact is that cybersecurity is that there's no such thing. If you asked your IT people or your security people, would they sign off on a piece of paper that said, I guarantee that you'll never be hacked or breached? And they wouldn't sign off because they know it's not a reality. You can put all the safeguards you possibly can put in place. And this is that there's no guarantee that the hackers won't be able to access your data. And as DJ talked about, new programs that the software companies put in for protection is that the hackers figure out how to get over, around, or through that in a very quick manner. So there's always these attacks that are coming on. But your greatest threat comes from within your own business. We have outside enemies, we have internal enemies, and the lack of education or a mistake by an employee, that usually is what lets an enemy in. And the statistics again say this: phishing accounts for over 90% of cyber attacks, how they get in. They don't break down the door is that someone left a side window open or the back door unlocked, or as Ahmed talked about, someone reacted to an email that they thought was from a friend. It sure looked like them, and they gave them some information. There was a password that went in to get that information, and all of a sudden you're in some deep trouble. So that this remains even the best cyber application tools and practices that you put in place, again, is no guarantee that you can protect yourself from someone getting in there. So also, and for businesses, this is your next responsibility that falls on your shoulders. When you own a business that handles sensitive information of your customers, you put them at risk too. So you're not an island in regards to, well, if it's only about my company, I'll get to it someday. Is that you're not that lucky. Your exposure and your liabilities are out there, are really tough. As I'm going to mention this, and we're going to catch on that cyber insurance. Nearly all businesses are at risk. You know, if you use a computer, if you use a tablet, if you use smartphones, if you use the internet, your liabilities and your exposures are there. You don't have to be a big business to be looked at. Is that more than half of the attacks happen to small businesses because they don't have usually the abilities to put in the right reinforcements in on that. And you don't have to be targeted by a criminal. As we said, phishing internally, it's your employees that more often than not leave an issue that brings in some bad guys. So on the role of cyber insurance, and I'm going to kind of read some of these things because it's a lot. Cyber insurance is designed to do a number of things. It provides organizations and information and expenses following a breach, helps recover revenues and pay for legal costs related to incidents. It helps businesses minimize disruptions and disabled IT, plus some cyber insurance policies cover the cost of fines and penalties, as DJ talked about, that are levied by private and public organizations. So some of the coverages and benefits you get from insurance is that restores personal identities of impacted customers, businesses interruption in case of your lost income. If this happens, communicates to clients, customers, and employees and other stakeholders, civil fines and penalties that you could be subject to, cyber extortion, which in other words, I think is ransomware, and network interruptions. This is where the insurance comes into place. It's deep pockets to pay for liabilities, costs, and expenses that you become held liable for. And in the area of, we talk about for benefits for cyber insurance and the coverages there. We're talking about the first one is financial. And there are two components to the financial support that you get from your cyber insurance. The first one is first-party cyber, and it's called cyber insurance. The second is third-party cyber liability. One of them, insurance, is your protection and benefits for you. The other side is a liability that you have exposed to your clients and stakeholders. So the first-party insurance coverages takes care of breach and legal counsel that you need to support and covers your legal advices and representation after a hack. It covers the cost of notifying victims and potential victims of attack that you're going to be held responsible for. Cyber extortion, it's going to have the deep pockets to help you with cyber extortion. The second one is this third-party cyber liability, and this is one that many don't remember or think about. And this provides a company physical indemnity, which is dollars and cents money, from damages resulting from attacks on the data of your clients and customers that they get to through the attack and access through your company. Network security and privacy liability comes on that, regulatory liability, and fines and penalties you can face from what the government puts up as responsibilities that you're supposed to and need to have for running your business. And the risk management side of it is that the requirements or the information that you get from DJ and his company in putting these policies and procedures in place actually builds a risk management kind of portfolio for you. And that you're going to have to have that when you apply for and if you apply for cyber insurance, because they're going to ask you a lot of questions in regards to what safeguards you have in place in order for your cyber insurance policy to feel that they feel comfortable enough to take the risk. And DJ mentioned it in the beginning of his talk, is that this just check boxes. I do this, we have this, we have this. I don't know what this means. We probably do this. I think we do this, and the boxes get checked. You get your cyber insurance policy, you're paying premiums, you get hacked or there's an invasion, and then the insurance company comes back and says, these safeguards that you indicated you have, we would just want to go over those with you again. And if you don't have them in place, is that you've paid premiums and you're not getting any support from your insurance company. So these fall hand in hand in regards to cyber security. It's different than IT. Cyber security, building a risk management outline that you follow and your employees look to follow, so you can pass underwriting guidelines, so you can afford to get cyber insurance policy, which again is the deep pockets that you're looking for the dollars and cents. I'll mention this too on one last in conclusion here. Different than your general liability, your workers' comp, your commercial auto, that you buy that because you think maybe sometime we might have an accident, we might burn down our building or whatever. This is different with cyber security and cyber insurance. Again, it isn't if it might happen. It really is just a matter of when it happens and for this to be in place. And one last thing, again, in an analogy for most of us, is that when we have new customers that we get, especially in the construction field, when they're asking for certification of insurance, they're asking you to show them that you have your insurances in place, which is your deep pockets and protections, before you're going to go to work or before they're going to hire you, because they want to make sure that you have financially put them at ease and not made them liable to a mistake or an incident that happens with your company. This is where cyber insurance really falls into place very, very strongly, those deep pockets. And DJ, in regard to cybersecurity, is what you're going to be asked for to have put in place before an insurance company is going to think that you are a fair risk to offer those dollars and cents. So with that, again, I'll turn it back over to Cameron for questions that might come up or your thoughts there, Cameron.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rhett. That's awesome. I have to say, I don't know if you guys know or not, but I am super impressed with these three guys finishing on time. Any one of them could talk about cybersecurity for an hour on their own without taking any breaths. So you guys did a great job sticking to the schedule. I'm going to clap for you. Very good. So we'd like to, thank you guys for sticking around, and also let you know what we at ITQue are offering is the opportunity for you to get a web scan. And what that's going to do is it's going to point out some areas that have a potential vulnerability. If you take a look at this slide, you can see some of the findings that it has. It kind of shows you where you're at and where you need to be able to obtain a good cyber insurance policy that's not super expensive. And then, shows possible financial loss. Some other neat things in here is it'll let you know if it finds any usernames and passwords on the dark web. That's obviously not a good sign. And these are really just indicators on whether or not we need to do a deeper dive. And if that's necessary, we'll do that too. Again, at no charge. If you find anything on here, we'll do a more in-depth vulnerability scan. And again, we're providing all these services at no cost because Uncle Ray is a good uncle and he wants to take care of you all. And that's just the way he rolls. So at this point, what I would like to do is again, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you attending. Please look at us as resources. We're here to help you. Yeah, we might get some business out of it, but it's really a win-win for everybody. And, we just want to keep you safe. And at this time, I'll open the floor up for any questions that anyone has.
I see a really good question. It says, how can I truly know if an email or link is legitimate before opening or clicking? That's an excellent answer. It can get complicated. There's two big things you need to know. One, mouse over. If you've never heard this term before, you're about to, and now you'll never be able to forget it. When you're moving your mouse on the screen and you hold it over something, that's called mousing over something, and a pop-up will come up. So anytime you ever see something that's a clickable link, if you move the mouse over it, the pop-up will show you what the link is actually going to. And so that's one indicator. That's one thing that everybody can do right now in their email programs, is that and anytime there's a link, mouse over it, see what the actual link is, and just take a closer look at it and make sure that it's what you think that it is before you click on it. Now, the other thing that's really important is having a robust advanced email protection system in place. So what we mentioned earlier about one of the three big things, not just a spam filter, but something that can detect these sort of things. And it says, hey, that's a known bad link, or hey, that's a suspicious link. And so it does, there's lots of different ways, but different product names for this. But most of the big vendors have something like that where it'll do link checking. And so that's another added layer of protection that you should definitely put into place.
Rhett, we have a question for you. One of the attendees would like to know if there is a waiting period for a cyber insurance policy.
No, there isn't. So once you go through the underwriting process, and the underwriters, you answer their questions, and again, as DJ said, they kind of don't underwrite this in advance. They take it as honest as that on your checklist and the questions that are asked on the application, that you've completed those honestly. And once that is completed, it's turned into underwriting, and we have a kind of a target date for being effective. Is that underwriter approves it, we take the effective date, whatever that date is, and the insurance goes in place at that present time. So there's no incubation period or waiting period once we have our date set.
Great. I've got another question, this time for Professor Regab. Professor Regab, somebody wants you to answer, what is the most common type of cyber attack?
Oh, that's a great question. Ransomware, I would say, is the most common attack. So there's ransomware, there's distributed denial of service attack, there's business email compromise, there's brute force, and there's wireless attacks. Ransomware, 96% of ransomware attacks come in a form of a phishing email. They're sending you and your 30 employees a free trip to Mumbai with a malicious link, as DJ mentioned, and they want you to click on that. When you click on that, you download some kind of malware, malicious software that will encrypt your data, delete your data, then they ask you for a ransom. And here's the thing, and DJ will concur, 92% of the ransomware attack, which is the most common attack because it's really easy, is they went after the backup. So hey, Mr. Anonymous attendee, hey, one of your 30 employees clicked because they don't have advanced email security, and we're able to detect, by the domain, we look at the links and so forth. So you need defense in-depth multi-tier approach. You need an email security that looks at the links and the attachments in those malicious emails, and then if it gets past that, you need, I call it antivirus, anti-malware, but as DJ mentioned, it's endpoint detection and response. And then the other thing is very common is, even I got attacked, my email, it says, hey, my Gmail account has been compromised and they have my username and password. Well, so what? Well, if I was not smart enough, if I use the same credentials, email, username and password for my business email, then DJ or Cameron can get in and access the crown jewels, the personal identification information, the credit card numbers, and the client numbers. So hopefully that answers your question. There's a plethora more. But hey, the offer that Cameron is saying, hey, listen, give us your email address. We'll tell you if your email has been compromised, like I was. You know what I mean? And if it is, buy cybersecurity insurance, or let us get you an advanced email security and the antivirus program and the firewall. And guess what? By doing that, that will reduce your cybersecurity insurance. And if you say, like Rhett said, like, hey, if you buy insurance and say, yes, I have a firewall, I have email security, I don't know what it is, but I think I have it, and you get attacked, and they're going to say, do an investigation, and you don't have it, the insurance carrier is not going to pay. So we're here to advise, hey, you're a business owner, you have risk. And you can do nothing. You can get insurance, but which will be expensive, or you can lie on your insurance attestment and say you have it and they don't get covered, or you can really get a free scan. And, we can, I hate the word free, we're going to scan and we're going to say, hey, do you have email security? Do you have, antivirus, anti-malware, endpoint detection and response? Do you have multi-factor authentication? Is it Cameron that logged into your system? Is it really him? So, great stuff. To Cameron's point, I could sit there and talk about this all day long, but I'll
These
stop
guys,
here.
yeah, these guys are very passionate about it. I am as well.
Cameron,
Yes, sir.
can I just jump on that one for a second?
Absolutely.
Just experience is that I have used one or two same passwords for just about all of my accounts. And so when I got compromised too, it was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And it was just easy to use the same password, so I didn't have to remember 17 different or 24 different passwords going on. And I was told is that you're a real favorite for hackers out there, because if they can get in through let's say a username, and I don't know, probably they just punch in the same thing over and over again, and they've got to had access to so many of the accounts that I use, because it was easier for me to have one or two. It's either Reese or Hollis, one of my two four-legged kids at the house. And I would use those flip-flop and back. So now I have passwords I can't even remember now. Now I have to have a black book. But for security, as you talk about, DJ, is that there's some things we can do to make it more difficult for them, even once they kind of get in the house, to find where your jewels are. And that one I experienced on my own too.
I'll give everybody a tip on password creation. You're very commonly told by a lot of different institutions, banks and whatnot, that passwords need to be complicated. That's not true. It actually has never been true. And the person who was responsible for pushing that out is a retired member of NIST. And he does the speaking circuit now, and he says the same thing. He goes, "I'm so sorry that I ever said that to the rest of the world. That's not it. The computers do not care how complicated your password is. It means nothing to them." Look at me, I'm anthropomorphizing the computers. AI has done that to us. What's important is a long passphrase. So the red fox jumped over the brown fence is much more secure than 12 random letters and numbers and symbols. It's all about the math, right? And there's two important things that you should know. There's non-repudiation, which means you are who you say you are. That's what encryption does for you. It proves that you are who you say you are, because only you with your private key could have encrypted this information. And then attestation, ongoing attestation, meaning proving that what you've said is actually true today, the same as it was when you first set it up. That's why there's no set it and forget it. You can't just install this software and then hope that it continues to run. You actually are required to do the ongoing attestation, because when an incident occurs, again, not if, but when an incident occurs and forensics comes in and checks these things, you're going to be out of luck. You're not going to be able to take advantage of this protection that you've put into place, because it hasn't actually been running. And so that's kind of the rub when it comes to this IT security stuff, is that it's really easy to overreact. But that's why I wanted to focus on just the three things for everybody here today. Focus on multi-factor authentication, focus on advanced email protection, not just a spam filter, but something that protects you against those doppelganger domains, things like that. And also cyber insurance protection for when something happens, because there's no such thing as security that's 100%.
I'll add to that also, 30% of cyber attacks are from insider threat. So Rhett didn't give Cameron that promotion and he has access to the kingdom. So there is ways to protect against insider threat as well.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
that's the scary one. I mean, yes, the vast majority, 90% plus, comes from an outside attack vector, usually coming in through email. Yes, that's true, but it's not 100%. And that's the problem, is that we want to protect ourselves. And look, in my experience, most of the time it's not someone being evil and trying to get you. Most of the time it's someone just making a silly mistake because they didn't understand, or they got tricked. They're probably just trying to get their job done. They're probably trying to do the best that they can, like most of us do. And in that effort to get it done, they make a mistake. I had a CFO of a trash company here give away $500,000 in 2 different transactions from a company that was, they did a lot of business, right? The trash company, they had these big, massive vehicles. It was called BigTruckTires.com. I'm making that up. That wasn't the actual domain, but that's the example that I like to use. Big Truck Tires. Now, somebody bought Big Trucks Tires. They added just that S, just that one S. They compromised this other vendor, sent the fake email to the CFO of the trash company, who buys these $250,000 worth of tires every week. And they said, "Oh, we're changing our bank." He said, "Okay, sure, no problem." Click, click, click. Gave the money away, sent $500,000 to a bank in South America. Now, we helped them. We reported it to the FBI, and they got about half of that money back, but they lost half of it. They didn't get it back. And it was, he wasn't doing anything bad. He was just trying to get his job done. They have hundreds of accounts. It was just something he was trying to do, and he got fooled. But that was because they did not have protection in place, not at their site, mind you. They had all the protection in place. It was the vendor. And so because the vendor's email was compromised, they could see all these legitimate email chains. So when they sent the fake email from the fake domain, they included a long email chain of real emails, and you would look at it and say, "Yep, that's my email. You literally did write it, but it just got copied and pasted." And if you're just trying to get through your day and you're trying to clear out a bunch of work before you're out of there on a Friday, there's a good chance that you're going to miss things like that.
I'll mention one last thing, Cameron, and it goes with DJ. Is one of the questions that's going to be asked from the underwriters on your cyber insurance is going to be in regards to training and education of your staff and employees. They're going to require that you do that. And you could say you do, but you can't lie about it, because as we've talked about, more often than not, it happens from within. And as DJ said, it wasn't somebody that meant to, is that it just looked like it was normal. They're trying to get their work done and they're moving a little bit quickly, and they don't understand what to look for. So education is going to be a big part of, and it's an ongoing thing, as DJ talked about. It's not that you set it up and you leave it on the shelf, but education will be part of one of those questions, or a couple questions you'll get from any cyber insurance carrier in regard to what are you doing in this area, how often, some kind of manual, because they do know that attacks come from the outside, but they know, because they run the numbers, is that more often than not, is that someone lets somebody in just because they either didn't know, they're moving a little bit too quickly, and that stuff happens.
One final question for both of you guys, and this time it's from me. What is your parting thoughts for our guests today? If there's one piece of advice that you could give them, what would that be? And then a second question, I think a lot of, and it hasn't been addressed here, I think a lot of times business owners have the perception that it might cost a ton of money to put these safety measures in place. Can you guys talk about that, and then give some parting thoughts to our guests today?
DJ, you go first and I'll back you up.
So okay. it could go both ways. You could have a knee-jerk reaction and you could dump all kinds of product and solution and tools into your cybersecurity. We see that happen all the time. However, there is a very healthy and realistic approach to this that does not break the bank. We're talking to the tune of maybe $25 to $35 per user in costs every month to be truly compliant. Now, these numbers, when compared against, your not just your company reputation, but what's called your domain reputation, that's an immeasurable cost. Like it's a no-brainer. It's like if it would be to not have it is like if you were to buy an alarm system for your home but no locks, so that every door just opens. Like that's it, like it doesn't make sense. And what I would really highly recommend to everybody is embrace it. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I learned. I'm going to try to make it really short. I'm going to tell you something I learned at a conference. I have to qualify that because it was from a psychotherapist. It wasn't my psychotherapist. They were speaking at a conference, but they were speaking to the idea of why everybody hates cybersecurity. They're like, oh, the MFA, oh, this, that, the other thing. I am guilty of it. I get annoyed by it sometimes. I'm like, oh, I gotta hold on. I gotta put in my extra code. Here's an interesting tidbit. You're actually being fooled by your own brain. It's people have heard the term slow brain versus fast brain, right? Your subconscious versus your conscious brain. It's actually almost like it's a form of what's that advertisement? Subliminal advertising, right? Your brain is doing something you don't realize what it's doing. And what you're actually doing as a business owner or principal, someone who's not really used to being told no, you're being forced to do something that you don't really want to do. You're being forced to spend some money that you wouldn't have chosen to if it was up to you by this enigmatic bad actor out there. That's the actual reason that you're pissed off. That's the actual reason that cybersecurity is annoying, is because you're being forced to do something that you don't really want to do. And then the brain does all kinds of stuff and you don't really realize the real reason. So, you don't get mad that you buy an alarm system and locks for your house, right? But it would be great if you didn't need them, but it's kind of ridiculous to not. You've got to wrap your brain around that. You've got to wrap your brain around the fact that it is required. Everybody has to do it. And yes, it's annoying, but not for the reasons you think it is. You're probably, if you really give it some thought, it was an aha moment for me, to be perfectly honest with you. It changed my whole attitude when I realized, oh, right. How could I be mad at the technology? That makes no sense. It's not a thing. What I'm actually mad at is the reason why. And that's all the bad actors out there. So I don't know. I hope that helps a little bit, because it is sometimes hard to wrap your head around this. And if it feels, bad, it's because you are being forced into it, but it's the world that we live in.
Thank you, DJ. Rhett, your parting thoughts.
Is you should be looking at cyber insurance no different that you look at a cost of doing business. You can't get the keys to the building or your office before you give the landlord, or if you buy the building, the mortgage company, until you give them certification that you have general liability or fire insurance in place. When it comes to workers' comp, you're not supposed to be operating once you have one employee or more, because of the financial responsibility that the government holds you responsible for if someone gets hurt working at your place. Cyber insurance is no different, is that if you're working with clients, if you're using the internet, if you're using a computer, if you're using a laptop, if you have people that are that they're working from other locations, their homes or in other parts of the country, is that every place that you have these people working is another entry into your business, into your bank accounts, and so on. So cyber insurance is probably as important, if not any more important than you having general liability, you having commercial auto, you having EPLI, workers' comp, so that if you have sustain a loss or make a mistake, that you can financially weather the storm and not lose your business. And cyber insurance has become that important in this day and age, because they're not looking to burn down your building. They're not looking to run into your trucks. They're not looking to slip and fall in your warehouse. They're just looking to, as DJ said, to get into your bank account, or in small businesses. They're not that interested in you. They're interested in your clients. You could be a small business working with some large clients that have tremendous assets and have tremendous data and privileged information. And they're just going to use you as a conduit to get to them, but you're going to be held liable for it. And it could be devastating to try to weather that storm if you don't have the support that a cyber insurance policy brings to the table. That's it.
Thank you, Rhett. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate you attending. On a more positive note, we don't want to leave you with too much fear and doubt out there. It's a relatively simple matter to get these things covered. There's a lot you can do with a little, and please reach out to Rhett's team. They can get the process started. We'd love to help. Rhett wants to help. That's what we're here for. Thank you guys so much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.